No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You got it.
And back on again. Out, 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 out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
Pow day.
Dude, let's go.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Bronco Nation News Live from BroncoNationNews.com is presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Happy March Madness Day, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's here, Bronco Nation News Live at BroncoNationNews.com. My name is BJ Rains. We got Mike Prater, KTIK 95.3, the Ticket, BNN columnist with us today. For Mike, at some point, maybe they'll make this a national holiday. These 2 days should be days where you don't have to work or go to school or do anything. At least the school system figured it out. Spring break this week. But how you doing? It's a fun day today, as always.
Oh, it's a beautiful day, BJ. You know, I'm not the greatest college basketball fan in the world, but everybody gets sucked into March Madness, and I know you're fired up. My partner, Johnny Ballgame's fired up. It's the first day of spring. It doesn't look like it outside, but it's certainly spring weather here in Idaho, and we got some March Madness. I love your idea of making this a national holiday. Johnny's always trying to push for Monday after the Super Bowl. I think that's a ridiculous idea. Today and tomorrow should be a national holiday. It should be the first and only 2-day national holiday. It's that important to this entire country. So I'm fired up and excited. Let's get after it today, my friend.
And I'm sure everybody's got memories of March Madness, and you know, I'm still old school, and I hand write my bracket, and I circle if I get it right, or I scratch it if I get it wrong. I was a kid back in high school trying to sneak in the little small TV to watch the games in class, and hoping you had the cool teacher that would turn the games on. And I'll never forget, we had a class meeting about our class rings. We were juniors in high school, I think, and they were in the cafeteria, or Jostin's rings, and the guy was going over the rings and all this. And there was I had one of those little small like portable TVs with the little antenna. And back then, we only got the one game on CBS, and it was Florida against somebody. And there was about 10 kids huddled around me during the class meeting watching this, with our whole class. And I believe the dude on Florida hit or Creighton. I think maybe it was against Creighton. I forget. But anyway, somebody hits a buzzer beater, and to win the game. And it was at the exact same moment that the guy from the ring was telling everybody how much the ring cost, and he puts the price on the screen, and then we start going crazy after we had seen this buzzer beater and kind of blurted out. And then the guy's like, "Oh, I didn't know the price was that affordable or something, but happy to see. But it was a funny story that I will never forget, because we this silent room in this one corner erupts because 10 of us see a buzzer beater hit on the first day of March Madness in the middle of the ring presentation. But everyone's got stories. Everyone had the cool teachers that would let them turn the games on, or the mean teacher that would say, no, you can do it when you get to your next class and all that stuff. But yeah, we've had spring football in the past to deal with. We've had other stuff. I've usually been traveling back from Dayton or been in Sacramento or been in Portland. And as much fun as the NCAA tournament is to cover, you miss basically every other game. As you know, Mike, it actually just being able in front of a TV on your couch or in your office and being able to watch all the games is almost, better than being at a site for a game, because you don't get to see any of the other games. But the way they do it's cool. And I will throw this in. I know you probably, I don't know where you feel on this, but I have no problem expanding it. I say it expanded as big as they want to go. More games. Who cares? Last night, Texas Xavier, great game down to the wire. Boise State versus Indiana or whatever. I mean, if you want to go 8 more teams, 12 more teams, I don't care. Everybody. I was watching Mount St. Mary's against whoever they even played in the 16 game last night. Like, give me more games. They should just have all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, be 4 games instead of 2. I'd be perfectly happy with it. I don't know. The people that want to complain are just old. I don't know. Maybe you might complain, so I don't want to say it. But I have no problem with more games. I love this tournament, and I can't wait for today and tomorrow.
Yeah, I got no problem with more numbers. And there's a lot of false angst out there. People are mad about something they're not even sure what they're mad about. Tradition or whatever. I mean, this thing used to start off with 32 teams and 48 and 64 and 68, and if they go to 76 or whatever the number is. Yeah, I'm with you. More basketball games. It certainly doesn't affect my life. More sports I will never say no to more sports. I don't even care what sport we're talking about. So bring it on. If it makes 8 more teams happy and gets 8 more fan bases sucked into March Madness, I'm all cool with that. I'd be curious as to the logistics and how it would all shake out, but I don't care. It's awesome. It's cool. Now, I do have one bone to pick with you right off the bat here, because I was reading Twitter before we jumped on. And, this is mostly jealousy out of my part, but you're out there looking for brackets to join in. And because you said, I kind of forgot because I don't have any skin in the game. Well, I know that you meant Boise State, and it's too bad Boise State didn't get in. But, dude, you still have Kansas. Look at my basketball team. I wore my Ute shirt today. I never wore my Ute shirt because they have the saddest basketball program in the country, and it's kind of in memorial. This great basketball program can't even get to a good basketball tournament. So I'm a little bit sad. At least you got the Jayhawks. You've got some skin in the game. Come on, dude.
I meant money. I have no pools for money yet. I need some.
Gotcha.
I want to have a reason to be ticked off when High Point loses to Purdue or something in the first round. But,
there you go.
But you know what? For you, Mike Prater, I will go ahead and switch my hat for the rest of today's show here. I'll go with my Kansas hat here if you can see it on screen.
Yes, put that sucker on. Yes.
Yes.
I know this is BNN, but that's fine on a day like today. We're all fans of our teams today, right?
Yes. And it's funny how many fans of opposing Mountain West fan bases want to get on me for acting like I'm wanting to see my Boise State diploma and all this, taking shots at me. I'm like, hey, my team plays at 5:00 today. I'm good.
There you go. You got a team, and that's cool. I love that. And
not our year though. This is one of those years. This will be a weird. I'd like to if we could somehow get to the Sweet 16, this would be a massive success, but this has not been a typical Kansas team. So just got to beat John Calipari in Arkansas today. Can't lose the first game. Then we got to play St. John's, who's the 2. So we probably won't win that. But if we could somehow, some way win 2 games and get to the Sweet 16, I'd say this is a massive. This is not a typical year where I'm going in super nervous because we're a 1 seed and we're supposed to win it all. So I'm kind of free rolling it this year, to be honest.
Hey, and I got proof here, and you probably can't even see it, but I got Kansas in my first round game. I got Kansas today, my friend, or is it tomorrow? Whatever they play.
It's today, 5:10.
Yeah, I got Kansas. I got Kansas. But then
there you go, Mike.
And then the St. Johnny's after that, though. That's a tough one. But hey,
you saw your Utah Utes beat Kansas earlier this year, and you're thinking, man, they must be really, really good if they can beat Utah, or if Utah can beat them. So, Utah
swept Kansas and Kansas State, and then fired its coach 10 days later.
And now it's going to be Utah and Boise State in the second round of the Crown tournament here.
Oh, geez, don't even get me started on that. So, I mean, Boise State certainly deserves to be there. Oh, when I found out that Utah was in a postseason basketball tournament, I didn't even know they had a team because 9 out of their 13 scholarship players, I was told, they're in the transfer portal. So, I think they're bringing their student manager and maybe a couple of assistant coaches to this tournament. So, the fact that Utah's even in a tournament without a team is pretty shocking to me.
And I heard the Colorado coach Tad Boyle. He said he got a call, and he's like, "They want us for a tournament." He's like, they were 3-17, I think, in the Big 12 this year, which is about as bad as some of these. Oklahoma was 6 or whatever they finished and got into the NCAA tournament in the SEC. But
yeah,
so that's a natural transition here. Mike Prater. This is Bronco Nation News Live. My name's BJ Rains. He's Mike Prater, and we're talking Boise State sports. Mike's here for another half an hour or so, and then Jeramiah Dickey, the athletic director at Boise State, is going to join us at 9:45 for his monthly appearance. I know you guys have been having fun. I think you had him on last week, Prater, and so he's making the rounds once a month, kind of one appearance a week, I guess, with the different media outlets. So he will join us at 9:45. We'll take some of your questions from the YouTube chat, whatever you guys got for the athletic director at Boise State. Feel free to please get that in the chat, and we'll talk to Jeramiah here in about a half an hour or so about that. But Mike, since we have last talked, Boise State is going to this crown tournament. And I will say this, yes, people will have their opinions, their thoughts, their narratives on this thing. I do think over time, this tournament is going to prove to be really cool. It's going to maybe flat out put the NIT out of business, or they're going to have to just change the format and things for the NIT, because you do look at the names in this tournament, and you've got a USC, a Villanova, a Georgetown. You've got, we joke about Utah, but a Utah, a Colorado, some of these name programs that are in this tournament. I've actually got the bracket. I'll throw it on here because I'm forgetting some of the teams. You've got a Nebraska, an Arizona State, a UCF, there's some, Cincinnati, a DePaul, a Butler. I mean, you look at the names in this tournament versus the names in the NIT. Certainly, it's not even close in terms of at least the brand names. Now, some of these, the appeal to this thing, Mike, obviously, is the players get paid. You have to win. The first game's worth nothing, but if you win the second game, you get $50,000 to get into the Final Four. You win the third game, you get $100,000 for your team into the championship, and if you win the championship, $300,000 to divide amongst your players. And that may not sound like a lot of money, but for a college kid, an extra $30,000 sitting on their stool when they come back in from the championship is not a small deal, and especially for a school like Boise State when you're trying to get some of these kids paid. So the concept is cool. You get to be on FS1, you get to be on Fox, you get to play the semifinals and finals at T-Mobile Arena. And it's during the week in the calendar where there's no other games on. It's what kind of sandwich nice between the Elite Eight and then the weekends right around the Final Four and the championship game of the actual tournament. So I get it this year, the jokes about Utah and Colorado and some of these teams being in this tournament, but there's some name teams in here. They filled the field for the first year. They kind of accomplished what they needed to kind of not make this some one and done type tournament. And I do think, as you saw in this tournament, more and more teams are going to choose this and the opportunity for their players to get paid over home games in empty stadiums in the NIT.
Well, yeah, after the NCAA tournament, it's hard to find justification for any of these postseason tournaments, even the NIT or whatever. I disagree a little bit, and that's okay. I think this kind of tournament is dumb. And you talk about the lure and the attractiveness of big name programs. Well, those big name programs have big time fan bases who have big time expectations. And their basketball team is playing in a tournament that nobody even has heard of. And the fan base, I'm not going to go watch USC in the Crown just because it's a USC branded name. And I have a feeling the fans are. The only cool thing about, and I think, we'll see how it grows. I don't see it growing, and I see it becoming like a CBI tournament and going away eventually, especially when we get down to the Final Four, the championship game, and they put this thing in T-Mobile Arena, and there's 1,200 fans in a 18,000 seat arena.
That part is weird.
That optics is not smart for me, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm very curious. I think it's cool. The only real cool thing here about this tournament, and really, frankly, it's the only thing that matters. So it has a lot of power. That this basketball team, and whether it's Boise State or Utah or USC, you got 20 brothers, coaches and friends and people that you want to be with, and you get to hang out with them for the next 3 weeks. That part is cool. I keep thinking of Tyson Degenhart. We all love Tyson Degenhart, one of the greatest things to ever happen to Boise State athletics. And I want his career to go out in style. It didn't happen the way he wanted, but he gets to hang with his boys for another 2 to 3 weeks. They get to practice. They get to goof around. They get to get on a plane. They get to sleep in a hotel. They get to play a basketball game. that part is really cool. And if they win a couple of games, yeah, cash is always going to be really, really cool. And that's the intriguing element here. But I'm not going to prop up this tournament as anything big or a great consolation prize. I think the tournament itself is kind of dumb. I think anything after the NCAA tournament is kind of dumb. But I understand people trying to do it. And I love the fact that Boise State gets to hang out and be together with their team for the next 2 or 3 weeks. That's the important thing here. So yeah, let's keep it going and hope it keeps on going, because those guys deserve to be together for another couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't think myself or anyone's trying to say this is, as good or equally whatever with the NCAA tournament. I don't know. Of course, the NCAA tournament is the only tournament that matters, whatever. But the way the system is set up is they do have 3-4 of these extra tournaments for more teams to play in. And this, to me, seems like the coolest of the rest of the bunch. And if you're telling me that a guy like RJ Keene has a chance to make $30,000 by winning 4 games in Vegas in a week, like, I think that's pretty cool. So I get it. People want to poo-poo it. It's not the tournament. It doesn't all of a sudden make the season a success if Tyson Degenhardt is hoisting the Crown Trophy on April 5th. I get it. The season was a disappointment. They didn't get in. They were picked first. It is what it is. Yes, it was a subpar season. I'm not trying to justify the season because they got in the Crown tournament, but to me, would you rather host Utah Valley in front of 3,500 people at Extra Mile Arena, or get a chance to, play a Butler and play an Arizona State and maybe play USC and Chibuzo Abo in the championship game with $300,000 on the line? Like that, I mean, if you put it into context that, yes, all the secondary tournaments are kind of pointless and dumb, then this is the best of those. I got no problem with it. Good for them. I think it's cool. It's better. Like I said, it's better than the NIT or the CIT or the CBI. And I mean, San Jose State was in the NIT playing last night, which they did actually have a really nice crowd, and that was a great game. I actually enjoyed watching that. It was a friend Fraschilla from ESPN was on the call, and he's like, this place is going bananas. And I'm like, words have never been said before at the event center in San Jose. But I mean, it was a fun game. I'll give them that. But it's a new tournament. It is what it is. It's some named teams. You're right. They're all teams that underachieved this year. Who knows how many fans are actually going to go out there for this thing, but it's on Big Boy Fox. You get Gus Johnson on the call maybe for a Tyson Degenhardt, game. I mean, it is. I think, like I said, yes, the actual tournament was the goal. But for this to be a secondary option to make some cash and, like you said, spend a week together in Vegas. I mean, they gave them a week off. They're home for spring break right now. They could have already played in the NIT last night and been done and have their season be over. But they just, they said they're going to get a chance to kind of reset, refresh, spend some time with their families away and come back on Monday and have a full week of practice still and a new mindset and a new, thought of this. And the big question is the transfer portal, because who's going to still be around at that point? I haven't tweeted this out yet, Mike, but my understanding is just which I don't think should be a huge surprise, but there are a lot of guys on Boise State's roster that are getting reached out to by other schools. And there's a lot of interest in a lot of these players for next year. And crazy money is being thrown around. I mean, I'm told RJ Keene is getting 6-figure offers. I mean, it's crazy the money that's being thrown around in the transfer portal right now. I would suspect they keep most of the guys they want to keep at least through the Crown tournament. But we didn't think Chibuzo Abo was leaving. We didn't, some of these guys, it just money talks and you never know what's going to happen. But I do think that's kind of the bigger storyline here with this tournament is it is not for 2 weeks and the transfer portal opens on Monday. And so David Moats came on our show and said, we'll take the guys that want to go, that want to be here for next year. We're going to tell them they got to tell us before the tournament, and we're going to take however many players we still have down there and play and see what happens. But it seems like it could be an interesting roster for Boise State, but also for some of these other teams in the tournament too. If you're, losing guys that don't want to stick around to go play in Vegas for one of these tournaments for 2 weeks. Yeah,
no, and I like Moats' approach. If you want to be with us, let's go. Let's roll and let's go have some fun and be a team together for one more week. And I like that. I was going back to that joke about Utah. I literally think like 7 to 9 of their players are in the transfer portal. I saw one beat writer talk about they may end up losing their entire scholarship lineup in this coaching transition, and yet they're in this tournament. So you kind of wonder what kind of team they're going to put together. Boise State, whether it's football, basketball, whatever, has always had a pretty rich tradition of being able to keep a majority of their players and not getting beat up too much in the transfer portal. Fingers crossed that this team can stick together for the most part going into this Crown tournament. It would be unfortunate for those guys not to be able to finish this season. But, hey, money talks, and we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I get it. And I'm with you. The NIT, I have zero interest in the NIT. I have zero. A home game would have been fine, but, we know the crowd. It would have been 3,000 to 5,000 people at the most. And those 3,000 to 5,000 would be the hardcores, and they get to see Tyson Degenhart play one last time at home. But to me, the trade-off is the Crown Tournament and letting this team be a basketball team again for 10 more days. Let's see how it works out. And I'm very curious about the future. At least somebody's trying something different, because the NIT doesn't work. The NIL attraction, I know there's a preseason tournament in Vegas as well that had some ripple effects. And I know that's what Boise State's heading to Maui. So, these kinds of NIL-induced tournaments are going to be fun for athletes moving forward. It's a new era that we live in, and at least people are throwing around some cash, and at least 3 people are throwing around some ideas. I like the ideas. I like the effort. I like the attempt. I just don't think the tournament's going to be anything credible, and who knows about the future.
And now the one thing the tournament does have is they secure deals with the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Big East, where those conferences were contractually required to send at least 2 teams to these tournaments. So, that you had USC and then Nebraska come in from the Big 10, and then it trickled down to the Big 12 teams. I think 5 Big 12 teams ended up in this tournament.
Wow.
And then the Big East has 3 tournaments, 3 teams also with Villanova and a couple others. So, 5 Big 12 teams in the tournament. That is part of it. And we'll see, like you said, some of these teams, we don't know how many players they had, but they may have had no choice if the league's like, no, you got to play in this tournament because we told them we'd send 2 teams, So, folks can say what they want. Ray says, don't see RJ getting 6 figures, BJ stirring the pot. I can 100% guarantee you RJ Keene, as crazy as that sounds, has schools reaching out to him, and there's money involved that is higher than $100,000. So, say what you want. I wouldn't just throw something crazy out there like that if I didn't know that to be the truth. So,
wow.
And if you think RJ Keene is getting $100,000, you can guess what Andrew Meadows is getting offered, or Peanut Carmichael, or some of these other guys. So I also think most of them end up staying, Mike Prater. I mean, I think that Boise State's going to do what they can. They've got some money opening up with Tyson leaving and some things like that. And it's kind of a money ball situation, as you know, to try to move pieces around and things around. And, take care of these guys, Javen Buchanan and all these guys, I think want to be here and want to stay, but obviously these are college kids, and Tyson and Ashton Genty and some of these guys are unicorns, Mike Prater, where, it's not just because Ashton Genty turned down all this money to take $300,000, it doesn't necessarily mean Sire Gaines is going to do it. It doesn't mean this next guy is going to do it. It's all, I think a lot of people in Boise just assume no one's leaving, and the fact that Spencer Danielson found a way to keep so many people from the football team this last year, at least to this point, the Cage Caseys of the world. I mean, it's rare, and it's not supposed to happen. So I think they're going to find a way to keep most of the basketball roster together and find some more money for these guys, but it's not a given, and it's not just what happens when guys get life-changing money as a college student, a lot of them decide to take it. But I guess you have to point to the character of the players these guys recruit and their families, and knowing that it's not all about the money for the most part. And so I suspect they're going to be okay from what I've heard right now. But it won't just be, they kept him. It was like nobody wanted him. It was like, no, they've got serious offers, serious interest, and they're working behind the scenes super hard to try to keep all these guys together, because some of the naysayers, whatever, may not think the roster is very talented, but I can promise you there's a lot of other schools out there that think a lot of the players on Boise State's roster are worth having right now.
Oh yeah, there's some great individual players on that team, and there's 3 to 6 that are worth 6 figures. There's no doubt about that. Just because they didn't accomplish what they wanted to as a team doesn't mean there's not great individual talent on that team. And the RJ Keene getting 6 figures. RJ Keene is a great player on the right fit at the right role at the right time, and maybe somebody out there saw that and the kind of intangibles that he brings to the table. It's hard for me to justify, and this isn't really a shot on RJ Keene, but boy, I just would not want to be Leon Rice right now, because one, you got to put up with the Praters of the world, and that's always crappy. But now all of a sudden, as soon as your season's over, you got to go off and raise $100,000 for a guy like RJ Keene. And then there's like 5 guys in front of you that probably want $200,000. All of a sudden, you're looking at raising $1 million every Monday as soon as the season ends. That's a brutal, brutal, brutal living, and a brutal, you're chasing rainbows and butterflies, and you're never going to catch them. And it's really, really difficult to do that. So I do feel bad for Leon Rice that he's got to, or any college coach who has to play this game. But the good news is it's the kids. And if somebody wants to give RJ Keene $100,000+ because he's got some value to whoever's offering it, I love that. I love NIL. I love student athletes getting paid. I love that student athletes have the power that they have today. They've crippled the NCAA and taken all their power away and put it right in their right in their front pockets. And I love that about the system of college basketball and college football today. It's sloppy, it's gross, it's greedy at times, but it's good for the student athletes, and I'm okay with that.
We've got an NIL deal ourselves with RJ Keene through Signature Roofing, so we'll try to get him on in the next week or two and see what he's willing to divulge or confirm about some of this. But my suspect is, Mike Prater, that he is going to stay for significantly less than $100,000 here at Boise State. So I don't think Leon Rice needs to run out and get $100,000 just to keep RJ Keene. Another school thinks he's worth that, but I think he is part of that culture that likes it here and wants to be here and will probably take significantly less to be here, as you know, most of the other guys on this roster will have to do too. And like I said, I'm not trying to scare people, whatever. I'm just saying it's real out there in the transfer portal, and it's behind the scenes right now. I mean, Leon Rice and his team are not on vacation here on spring break. There is a lot of work being done going on to try to keep the pieces they want to keep. I mean, are they going to lose a guy? Could a Chris Lockett decide he wants to go elsewhere? Sure. Could a Dylan Anderson decide maybe he wants to go somewhere else? Sure. I think Dylan Anderson could stay. I think if they find a way that, he'll take less money to stay. I don't know if they want to pay him again for what they paid him now, last year, but I think everybody likes Dylan Anderson from what I'm told, and he's a good guy in the locker room and that kind of stuff. So, as a backup big, I have no problem with him staying if he knows his role, and maybe he improves some but you can't be giving six figures to a guy that doesn't really see the floor very much. So I'll be curious kind of what happens there, but they've obviously got some needs as well, Mike. They have to go out and find some players as well. They could use a point guard. They could use another shooter. They could use another big man. So they've got some pieces they need to add, and they've got a pretty good track record. They were 2 for 3 last year, getting Javen, getting Alvaro, in the transfer portal. They've brought in Buzo. They've brought in whether it was an Abu Kijab or Emmanuel Akod. I mean, they've had some success in the transfer portal, bringing in guys, and they're going to need to do that again this year because they certainly have some areas on the team that they've got to some holes to plug, and hopefully not too many holes to plug based on what happens with the roster here in the near future. All right. I want to thank a couple sponsors here, take a quick break, and then we're going to get a little spring football thoughts from Mike here on the three-day, they had the 3 days and you were out there practice and then the break, and then they come back next week. So we'll keep any questions, comments you got coming basketball related, but I do want to talk football with Mike Prater here in a second. And then don't forget Jeramiah Dickey, the Boise State athletic director, coming up in about 15 minutes here on Bronco Nation News. RowPaint.com is our title sponsor. RowPaint.com, all your painting needs, whether it's those concrete coatings, interior, exterior painting. They just came and fixed a painting project at our house and did a tremendous job. Highly recommend the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics, RowPaint.com. Hey, Taco Bell, TacoBellWorks.com, the SOM Management Group, the Nicolason family. Great food, great environment if you're looking for a job as well. They are hiring. Taco Bell, the Treasure Valley Taco Bell locations, TacoBellWorks.com. Again, the SOM Management Group, the Nicolason family, they're donating over $400,000 to student-athlete scholarships at Boise State. Return the favor. Go get a great meal and at Taco Bell, and the slushies. My kids love the cheesy roll-ups. It's cheap. It's delicious. And, they've got all kinds of things. We get the Cantina Bowl. You can sub out the lettuce for the rice if you're eating keto or whatever kind of diet you have. So Taco Bell, check them out, TacoBellWorks.com. Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. I saw their graphic congratulating Tyson on being the all-time leading scorer. ICCU, one of the first big companies to step up and offer some NIL money, speaking of NIL, to Tyson, and it's certainly been worth it on both sides there. Idaho Central Credit Union, there's a branch pretty much on every corner, but the easiest is that mobile e-branch online banking right there in your smartphone. Rain's family so happy we made the switch. I know Prater's a happy ICCU customer as well. Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. Hey, the Blue and Orange Store, they got your gear covered. The Blue and Orange Store.com, whether it's jerseys, caps, sweatshirts, shorts, collared shirts, they got you covered. Coaches sideline apparel, the authentic Nike gear, the biggest hat selection in town. That clearance rack in the front of the store is the best value in town. You can order online anywhere in the world, the blueandorangestore.com, or just go to the Boise Town Square Mall, the second floor there, right next to the Pro Image. Hey, Snake River Pool and Spa, patio and game locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. They've been around since 1978. They're part of the Boise State home team, the Spa Team. TheSpaTeam.com is where you can go, whether it's a pool table, whether it's a sauna, whether it's a, maybe a something for the game room or sauna for the garage or the back patio. You want that spa, they got you covered. Go online, view their full inventory at thespateam.com. And Lithia Ford of Boise, lithiafordboise.com. This is going to be the year. I have a feeling that Mike Prater drives home from the BNN golf tournament in the free vehicle from Lithia Ford of Boise after the hole-in-one on hole 6 there. Lithia Ford, is providing the vehicle again for the hole-in-one at our golf tournament. We're looking forward to that. And they got some great deals going on right now. The 2024s have to get off the lot, so they got making room for the 2025. So LithiaFordBoise.com. You can view their full inventory of vehicles. Do your research ahead of time so you know what you got and you're looking for when you head on in there. And they do a lot for the NIL game as well. We're talking NIL. We're talking stepping up with vehicles for Cage Casey and Roger Carrion and some of these guys to keep them in town. So return the favor, folks. That next car or truck purchase, make it at Lithia Ford of Boise. And Mike, I do want to mention this is a Jackson's Thursday, 99-cent coffee at Jackson's anytime, day or night, using that Let's Go Rewards app at Jackson's. So head on out to Jackson's today. If you need a coffee, 99 cents using your Let's Go Rewards app anytime of day or night. Jackson's 99-cent coffee using that Let's Go Rewards app. All right, Mike, we had Mike Callahan on yesterday. He's coming on board as a part-time BNN analyst here for spring football and then hopefully into the season. But he did his homework. He had his 5 storylines. He had his 5 players to watch. I was very impressed. And, I'm not surprised when I heard all the degree. He's way overqualified to work for BNN. I'll tell you that. He's got about to get his MBA and he's got 2 undergrad degrees. I mean, I don't know how he had time to play football or vice versa, but very well-spoken young man, did a tremendous job yesterday. And we spent yesterday just talking football, the whole show and kind of the storylines and things. You were at the 3 practices last week. We saw the first one and then had to jet to get down to Vegas for the conference tournament. But and again, Jeramiah Dicki coming up in about 13 minutes. So don't go anywhere. Get your questions in for Jeramiah Dicki, the Boise State Athletic Director, in 13 minutes. But what were your week 1 observations, whether it be practice, whether it be people you talked to, interviews, as we sit here on this kind of weird break after just 3 practices? What are your spring football observations so far?
Yeah, I mean, so far, the most impressive guy so far has been Malik Sherrod, the running back out of Fresno State. And he caught my attention a lot last week, all 3 practices. He was very consistent. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's RB1 because Sire Gaines still hasn't even shown up yet. Once again, we do have to worry about the health of Sire Gaines, and I'm starting to get a little worried about that. I think Sire Gaines is going to be just fine, and this is precautionary, and we'll see him starting this coming week, easing back in. But Malik Sherrod did a great job. I don't expect Malik Sherrod to be RB1 when the season starts, but he's a great role player and maybe a great support guy, and he might be the RB1 if injuries or something comes up. So that's been a fantastic surprise. It's really, really weird. The vibe out there at practice those 3 days was a lot's changed, but really it's a lot of the same. A lot of the same coaches, even Cutter still hanging around doing Dirk Cutter things at practice. That's kind of funny to see. But Maddox Madsen out there doing his thing. The offensive line doing its thing. There's some mixing and matching certainly on the front half of this defense, but the back half of this defense is a lot of the same names that I'm really, really liking. The nickel spot, they've moved Devon Banks from cornerback over to nickel, and I like what they've done there. So, there's a little bit of shuffling and some personnel things that stand out. Breezy Dubar looks pretty good at certain times. Some of the wide receivers are looking pretty good. It's hard to tell after the first 3 days. I can't wait to dive back in. I know we're going to get Shenander on Monday at a press conference and then diving back into practices next week all the way up until that spring game in mid-April. But, kind of business as usual. Everybody's running around doing the same. Everybody looks mostly healthy and a lot of fresh faces. 25 new players, but only a couple of them have stood out so far.
I thought the D-line, I know Michael Callahan brought that up yesterday, and he just raved about having Frank Miley back. And I know we talked. I know we talked about it after that one practice, and I don't know if you made it over there the next couple of practices. But watching Frank Miley and Eric Shenander kind of tag team this defensive line, just the wealth of experience. I mean, that's the kind of hire like an Alabama used to have, where no other school could afford it, and they would bring in these extra coaches that had no jobs at the time, and I mean, it kind of started with that extra analyst type role thing, and now they've changed it to where you can actually coach, and to have a Frank Miley as your assistant D-line coach, like, what are we doing here? I mean, I think that that's a very interesting position because they did lose a lot of key guys that they've got to replace, both on the from the pass rush standpoint on the exterior at the edge, stud, whatever DN positions, but also on the interior as well, losing Mike Callahan and Sheldon Newton and some of these guys they lost on the interior as well. So I know Boise State's D-line has always kind of started with the guys up front and the pressure they get, and then they kind of work their way back. I think that D-line is going to be an intriguing spot for me all spring and all off season from the player standpoint, but also from the coaching standpoint.
100% agree with that. And I keep a seating chart of every position on Boise State, and it kind of flows all the time. I don't call it a depth chart. I call it a seating chart. Every position on my seed chart has been filled with at least 2 players, and in most cases, it goes 3 deep. Like we talked about, like the nickel position is now Banks, Webb, and Miller. Webb and Miller are 2 new players. When spring ball started, my nickel position was blank. So now I filled that in. The only blank position I have left is the nose tackle, where Herbert Gums was. They obviously rotated some players in and out of nose tackle, but I didn't really see a depth or a seating rotation in terms of what they're doing. You're 1,000% right, and Callahan is 1,000% spot on in terms of the areas they need to deal with. They got Braxton Feely at defensive tackle, but the nose tackle, the other inside guy, that position is wide open right now, and I'll be paying a lot of attention to that one as they resume this next week, because I need to see who's there, who's getting the rotations. The defensive line to me is very, very much a big question. It might be the biggest question of this entire football team this offseason, because the back half of that defense is pretty solid and pretty good. The offense is in really, really good position. I do worry about wide receiver 1. I still don't think there is a wide receiver 1. Is that going to be Chris Marshall? I don't know if it's going to be Caples. I don't think it's going to be Bolt. So, but the defensive line, especially the interior, that second nose tackle position, that's something to definitely keep an eye on over these next couple of weeks.
And on the flip side, the offensive line, for the first time I can remember in a while, not only are there not a lot of position battles open, but there's not a lot of injured guys over on the sidelines. I mean, I know Hall Schmidt is out. There's a couple other guys. I think Kyneth and Cox are both out, and some guys that have played some. But I think last year or the year before, I mean, I remember not too recently, Mike, where you've literally had all 5 projected starters over on the side in boots or out for spring. Yep. I think that's a massive storyline as well that's kind of under talked about, is the fact that your center, Mason, and your Cage Casey's of the world, and your Roger Carryons, and all these guys are out there getting, and they're not getting every rep. They're mixing in guys, but 15 practices and the extra reps you get and the work you get and the communication amongst the line, and for your center to be working with your quarterback all spring. I mean, I think the positive health of the O-line, which we usually cannot say during the spring, I think in terms of having this group gel and try to have a solid season next year, I think that Tim Keen's in a really nice place with this O-line.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it really is. It was kind of the thing of beauty last week to see all those guys. Now, the right tackle position, that's Schmidt and that's Cox, kind of how it ended last year. But there's also the Jake Steele kid and the Matoyer kid, who played a lot at the end of the season last year. And I thought the Matoyer kid might have been the best of the 3 right tackles that they played last year. So he's getting some reps. Anytime in spring ball, this is kind of a no-brainer. Somebody's out. Obviously, that's where you get to develop the younger guys, and that's one of the beauties of spring ball. So there is enough experience on this offensive line, and they do a great job under Keen of mixing and matching. You can play right side, you can play left side, you can do whatever. Most of these guys can play multiple positions, especially the inside interior guys. So I think they're doing a great job of developing that offensive line. I have no fears or worries about the offensive line, but really healthy. The right tackle spot, let's keep an eye on that moving forward, but it's in really good shape right now.
What do you think about, they are going to have a spring game? It sounds like we're going to talk to Jeramiah Dicki about this. I'm sure you may have asked him last week, but they're not going to be a traditional game. They'll have some different periods, kind of a modified open practice / game. But what do you make of them still doing, some schools are kind of going away from that. Some schools like Deion Sanders are wanting to play a game against another school and go the complete opposite direction. But with the construction and everything going on, they very easily, Mike could have just said, heck with it this year, but they are going to have an open spring game / scrimmage / practice for the fans on April 19th.
Yeah, I mean, fair question, but I think it's also an overblown story, not just here in Boise and nationally. Only 3 programs that I can tell have decided not to do a spring game, and it's got tons of attention. USC, Nebraska, and Texas, I think, are the 3 schools. Now, USC, Nebraska, and Texas.
Hey, my Jayhawks just canceled it today.
Okay, so there's one more. So there's 3 big-time programs in Kansas. No, that was a bad BJ joke. Now watch Kansas turn around and kick my Utah's ass in football this year.
Go to that road trip, Black Friday in Lawrence. Let's go.
Let's do it. Only the big time programs, and those big time programs are on television, like ESPN. And ESPN only puts games on TV when they play real spring games. They don't like this, lining up and do red zone drills or special teams drill. You have to play a real game. So again, Boise State hasn't played a real football game. They do more experimental stuff. They break it up into chunks, and they do red zone stuff, and they do situational stuff. So they would never put Boise State on television, one, because they're not a big national brand like that. that is going to be on ESPN. And Spencer Danielson doesn't play real games. He does it the other way, which is fine. I like that idea. So, Boise State's still going to do what it has to do. It's going to be kind of weird. The spring game around here has never been any kind of buzz. And, if somebody wants Boise State's players and they're going to poach them out in the transfer portal, and the transfer portal opens, we talked about the basketball transfer portal opening Monday. The football transfer portal opens up in the back half of April, right as soon as Boise State's done with spring camp. They're not going. If somebody wants a Boise State player, they're going to find them with or without that spring game. So I think that's an easy decision, especially when Spencer said this is a community event, and that was a smart answer. Although the community doesn't really respond, 5,000, 6,000 people maybe show up, but that's still a pretty good number for a football spring game. And I think there's a lot of interest in this spring game. So yeah, to me, it's business as usual. And the whole we're going to cancel spring game because we're tired of the transfer portal. That story to me nationally was a little bit overblown.
All right, Mike, final thing for you. We got Jeramiah Dicki coming up in about 5 minutes here, so get your questions, thoughts in for that. But I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, Mike. I didn't tell you I was going to bring this up, so you can say or not say whatever you want to. But there was some news made this week with President Marlene Trump interviewing at University of Vermont, the sole finalists. And so it sounds like if all goes well, I think yesterday was the second day of the interview. All indications are Marlene Trump could be leaving to go to the University of Vermont. I saw a lot of mixed reaction on social media. I saw a lot of uninformed takes of folks that really have no idea what's going on, Mike Prater, in terms of athletics and that dynamic with the administration. Just your take on what that would mean for athletics if Marlene Trump were to move on.
I don't think it would be devastating, and that's not a knock on Marlene Trump. But I've put a lot of thought into this one, so I can totally dive into this equation. The communication gap between athletics and campus isn't always healthy. I think at the end of the day, there's a business respect between athletics and campus, and that's kind of how it's called over there. There's a respect. There's a professional business respect, and at the end of the day, I think they get the job done. But Marlene Trump is a different animal, and she doesn't always do it the right way, the easiest way. I like Marlene Trump personally. I feel like I've gotten to know her a little bit. I see her. I high-five her. I appreciate her company. I think she's a really, really good human being. And I think she's done some nice things at Boise State, and I think she's done some detrimental things at Boise State. The biggest thing for me, and I suspect at this point, based on what I've read, she's going to get the job because if she's the sole finalist, she's really good in those interviews. She's really smart. She's really educated. I don't think I'd want to be an education leader in the state of Idaho. There's a political bomb for you. This is a bad, bad state when it comes to education. And I'm talking about a kid that grew up in this education. I had to take one math class in the first 12 years of my high school. One math class. And I was so bad at math going into college. And this education system in this state has been historically bad for 50 years. And it's not any better right now. And she's had to butt a lot of heads. But politically, she's also been a detriment to athletics because there's a lot of big-time donors, and I'm talking big-time donors, maybe top of the 5 or 6 big-time donors that don't like her politics, that don't like what she stands for, and they've probably held their cash just a little bit more than they have in the past. And if somebody else comes in, that might open up the door for some more big-time money to come into Boise State athletics. So I think there's a little bit of give and take, but I think her leaving would not be detrimental to this athletic department. It might open up some other opportunities, but at the same time, I think she appreciates what Spencer Danielson has done. I think she appreciates what Jeramiah Dicki has done. She's frustrating along the way in terms of the process of getting the job done, but at the end of the day, I think everybody goes to bed with this mutual business respect, and it kind of works for Marlene Trump and her coaching staff.
Yeah, Surf City Bill says she's been a strong sports supporter. I would say publicly, no doubt. You see her front and center at a lot of the games and things. I would say we never know what's going on behind the scenes, but publicly, yes, she has been a very strong supporter of athletics, and that'll very interesting door opens, Mike, to try to see what direction they want to go. And if you do get someone in here that's all in on athletics, that could be a game changer.
I will say this, and this will be just as controversial. And I know he comes with some baggage. And I know he made some decisions at the end that didn't sit well with everybody. I miss the athletic muscle, the athletic power of a John Custer, because just of what he does and going out there, Bob Custer, and going out there and doing what he has to do in terms of, that guy he'd testify in Congress. He would testify BCS. He would fight the big dogs. And a lot of what Custer did helped Boise State to get to the point where it is today. I'm not saying in today's culture We need a heavy-handed guy like that. But, man, he was so good about going to fight publicly. Marlene Trump's great at showing up at athletic events and waving the pom-pom and cheering and supporting and doing the things that she's supposed to do. I'm not belittling that. But behind the scenes, I don't think she's waving the heavy hammer in order to support athletics. And sometimes I think she gets in the way of athletics in that regard. So I think her leaving would be a little bit of a soft blow, but I think it would create a lot of opportunities where athletics needs to dive in and go hard. And I miss the muscle that Custer used to bring to athletics at Boise State.
Hey, we appreciate it, Mike. Looking forward to your next column coming soon at BNN. We'll be listening 3 to 6 today with you and Johnny and the gang on Idaho Sports Talk, and appreciate you as always, sir. And I guess we'll be back on the Monday schedule next week.
Oh, yeah, I'll see you on Monday. I need you to do me a favor. If you're taking questions from everybody about what to ask, and you probably already have this, just make sure you talk to Jeramiah about NCAA tournaments coming to Boise, and so much the political climate and how it's changed since this last presidential election cycle. I don't think that there was ever a chance, and Leon Rice even mentioned this once in public, that the NCAA tournament probably was never coming back to Boise because of the political climate out there. The political climate has changed, and it's not for everybody. But did it open up the doors for Idaho to maybe be able to host NCAA tournaments again? So I'm very curious about two things. Jeramiah Dickey's his desire to bring NCAA tournaments back to Boise, and are there political barriers out there, and have they changed over the last few months based on the presidential election? So dive into that one a little bit for me. I'll be watching.
Do our best, man. Appreciate you, Mike.
Thanks, BJ. Take care, bud.
There he is, Mike Prater. Again, 3 to 6 today. You can listen to Idaho Sports Talk with the whole crew there. They do a tremendous job. Idaho Sports Talk, 3 to 6 on 95.3 FM. The Ticket. We're going to hear from Boise State's athletic director, Jeramiah Dicki, here shortly. Bauscher Real Estate, BauscherRealEstate.com. I want to thank a couple more of our sponsors as we get set to welcome on the athletic director at Boise State, Matt Bauscher, and Bauscher Real Estate, #1 ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley. Bauscher Real Estate, BauscherRealEstate.com. When you buy or sell a home from Matt and his team, you get to meet everybody in the picture there. Customer service unmatched. He's going to fight every step of the way for you and for your deal, whether you're selling or buying. So hit him up, Matt Bauscher, Bauscher Real Estate. Hey, Ridley's Family Markets, shopridleys.com. Locations across the Treasure Valley, across the state of Idaho. Great family, great business. And we appreciate Ridley's Family Markets, shopridleys.com. Again, locations Twin Falls, Magic Valley, Treasure Valley. Download that Skip app. Give savings up to 40% off at the checkout line at shopridleys.com. Transportation Compliance Service. If you're looking for a new job, how about the trucking industry? Transcomservice.com can help you every step of the way. Transportation Compliance Service, transcomservice.com. Transcomservice.com, whether it's the DOT, overweight permits, anything you need, let me know. We'll get you the contact info for those guys if you want to get in contact with them directly. But the general website, transcomservice.com, the phone number 866-813-7620. Transportation Compliance Service. Lean Feast, leanfeastmeridian.com, leanfeastmeridian.com. They're feeding the football team, the basketball team. They can feed you as well. Leanfeastmeridian.com. Whether it's chicken, steak, shrimp, fish, you name it, 10,000 plus combinations and meal options. It's a great company. We appreciate Dave, and they're taking care of a lot of great folks here. Any kind of diet, all fresh, not frozen. They deliver, and it's good in your microwave for 2 minutes, and you're eating like a king. So Lean Feast, leanfeastmeridian.com. And we want those voicemails, speakpipe.com/BNN, speakpipe.com/BNN. Signature Roofing is the sponsor of that. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on an upcoming show. Signature Roofing, covering our community for more than 2 decades. Whether it's a re-roof, a repair, an estimate, an inspection, they got you covered. Signature Roofing, again, online at mysignatureroofing.com. All right, now is the time. Get your questions in. Get your comments in. Any question you have for Boise State Athletic Director Jeramiah Dicki, now is your chance. It's pretty cool. Once a month, he comes on here, and we go right to the chat, and we'll take your questions for the athletic director at Boise State. So as you guys know, following him on social media and things, he's pretty much an open door when it comes to, and it's even gotten him in trouble at times for saying too much. But if you, if you got any question for the athletic director at Boise State, Jeramiah Dicki. Now is your chance. Get that question in, get that thought in, and we'll get it to him shortly. He'll be joining us any moment, and we'll be getting to him shortly here. So if you do have a question, you do have a comment, now is your chance. Get your question in for the athletic director at Boise State, Jeramiah Dicki, and we will get to him as soon as he is able to pop on and join us here. That'll be once a month on Thursdays that we get the chance to talk to him. But while we are waiting for JD to pop on, want to remind you we have that promo going on right now. BNN 50 deal is the promo code. BNN 50 deal. $50 gets you a full year at BroncoNationNews.com. You can read from Mike Prater, Nathan Carroll, myself, all kinds of great coverage. If you're trying to fill out that last-minute bracket, that first game starts in about 20 minutes. Nathan Carroll's got a numbers look at who to pick in your bracket, who not to pick, and all that good stuff. So BroncoNationNews.com is the website. You can go on there and subscribe. $50. You get a daily email, all this exclusive content. We'd love to have you on there at BroncoNationNews.com. And we tell you all the time, but you're watching a free show here on social media thanks to our sponsors, thanks to our subscribers. So if you're unable to subscribe, please at least support the sponsors, many of which you see on the screen behind us. We've also obviously got some other major sponsors, including Taco Bell, Jackson's, Snake River Pool and Spa, and Signature Roofing. All of our great sponsors, Blue and Orange Store, Lithia, RowPaint.com, Idaho Central Credit Union, TCS, of course. But support the sponsors, folks. This is a free show you're watching daily on YouTube, the pre- and the post-game shows. We couldn't do it without the support of our sponsors. So if you can do that, we would love to have you guys, and I would really appreciate that. All right, we're going to take a quick 30-second timeout. The athletic director at Boise State, Jeramiah Dicki, joins us in 30 seconds here on Bronco Nation News.
Bronco Nation News is presented by our title sponsor, RowPaint.com. Our major sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, Lithia Ford, the Blue and Orange Store, Jackson's, and our contributing sponsors, Signature Roofing, Western Collective, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Boucher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and Timberstone Golf Course.
All right, as promised, nice enough to join us here on Bronco Nation News Live. We bring in the athletic director at Boise State, Jeramiah Dicki. Jeramiah, appreciate you making time for us on the first day of the official first day, I guess, of March Madness here today. But wish you guys were playing, but we'll get to the Crown Tournament here in a minute. But thanks for popping on.
Thanks, BJ. I always appreciate the opportunity.
Before I forget, Mike Prater was just on here, and I don't want to forget his question, so I'm just going to ask it first before I forget. But with the tournament back starting today and tomorrow, we were talking about the viability of bringing it back to Boise, and I know there was a chance where that was never going to happen. The climate has changed a little bit in the politics and the presidency and the highest level of there in Washington, D.C. What are there any changes to that? Do you think you guys could be in line to host a tournament again at some point, or what's kind of where does all that kind of stand at this point?
It's a great question, and and doesn't surprise me. That's Prater's question. I think that's come up in the past. The reality, BJ, is one, I'm never going to say never. There's always opportunity. When I first got here, for whatever reason, and it was not necessarily an athletics decision, and I know there were some things nationally going on that we had not gone through the bid process. And so since I've been here, we did go through the bid process, not just to host the NCAA tournament, but also to host cross-country championships, a number of other sport programs as we actively try to bring more NCAA championships to our community. And so unfortunately, we missed out. I think there is this national push to have stadiums maybe that are a little bit larger, that are tied into NBA teams. Because obviously there's a financial piece to this and selling tickets. We have a large stadium for who we are. And quite honestly, probably too large for what I would really want.
Yes.
But I do think that there's, potential in the future. And, but I know we're a few years from that. So I promise to keep you and Prater and Bronco Nation in the loop on that. That's something that's important to us. I've heard so many great stories around that tournament and the guys that they've seen come through here, and you have some NBA Hall of Famers, and so I know those were great memories for Bronco Nation, and hope we get back there soon.
Another topic that's gotten a lot of talk here lately is the NCAA selection committee, the college football playoff committee, the fact that you have sitting ADs, conference commissioners, on this list, and the potential conflict of interest that comes with that. And not that I'm not asking you about, North Carolina specifically or anything, not trying to make headlines or whatever, but everyone saw, that there was a bonus attached to someone on the committee when their team made the tournament. What do you think big picture in terms of the way that the tournament committees are set up? And I know you've got a friend, that's now the chair, right, of the football playoff committee down there at Baylor. And so I know ADs have friends, ADs talk and everything. And I know there's always going to be kind of that inherent, whatever you want to call it, conflict of interest or whatever. But there's folks now saying, it should be the Ken Palms and Bart Torviks of the world, or bracketologists or media members or retired, coaches or administrators. What do you make of the way it's done right now? And what do you think could be, if there are any changes, what you'd like to see, or what could be coming, different to that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what changes potentially could come, but I think it's a good conversation. I think very highly of Bubba at North Carolina. He's someone I've followed and watched, and he's very well respected in our industry. And I do not think anything nefarious was going on. But there is the human component, and as an aspiring AD prior to getting here, that was something that it's a point of pride for ADs to be able to represent your institution and to be on those committees. But yeah, I think like anything, we're having to adapt as an industry, and as we professionalize in the business of our operations and what we're looking to accomplish, and especially with revenue share and NIL. And I think it's probably something that will be discussed in the future. And but I want to be clear, I don't think anything bad happened. I think, BJ, when you look at our year, we had 3 games that we lost in the last 5-10 seconds. You would know the specifics, in terms of the timing, but those are games we won in previous seasons. And that completely flips, probably us being, first 4 out to back in. And, sometimes the ball bounces that way. And there's a lot that we can control in this process. I've spoken to Leon. I'm so grateful for Leon, and I know he takes a lot of bullets, and I try to stand in the gap and take some for him. He's done a phenomenal job. That team was just unbelievable student athletes. I won't ever forget the team, and understanding our success, publicly is usually defined by our wins and losses and championships, and but they're just phenomenal kids, and and the ball just didn't bounce our way, and we gave it our best shot and just lost our legs in that champ game. And I still believe we should have gotten in, but every AD who gets left out does that. This isn't the first year that multiple teams have been left out that there's an argument that they should be in. And that's not a shot at, anyone. And quite honestly, I think everyone had a legit argument. I saw the conversations about, Texas shouldn't have been in, or, Xavier beats Texas and North Carolina. And, I feel bad for these teams and these kids. And ultimately this is what you work hard to do. And there probably is no perfect system. And I'm not sure expanding the tournament, ultimately there's going to be another 4 left out that's going to have an argument. Like, I don't think it ever ends. But, as we adapt to our industry and the changing of the times, like, is it worth looking at, maybe a different setup or model? And that ultimately, like, that was always a dream, like, that I would be able to get on a committee or the CFP, but at the end of the day, I understand what that look is. And maybe there's a better path, and whether it's media members, whether it's former coaches, if there's another way of setting it up that we haven't thought about. I haven't put a lot of time or energy into it. But there's always a solution and something that maybe makes more sense. And that's a big driver here at Boise State. So in any case, it's a good question.
You mentioned taking the bullets. I've had to take some as well at times for folks that maybe don't just see the big picture of the program. Well, what is your kind of big picture evaluation right now of the program? As you know, there's most people are happy, satisfied. There's the small percentage that says, hey, they were picked first, finished 4th, another year without a win in the big dance. I mean, just big picture. What do you make of where the program's at? And I mean, I've been hearing some guy. I mean, I know, sure you know this, but that the transfer portal and just it's common sense right now with what's probably going on in there with the basketball team getting reached out. And I'm hearing guys like RJ Keene are getting crazy numbers thrown at him. Like, I know there's been a big push with football on the NIL side, but what are you guys trying to do on the basketball side to make sure the Andrew Meadows and Peanut Carmichaels and Javen Buchanans of the world are guys that you guys can continue to build around moving forward here?
Yeah, NIL has always been a priority for us. We may not have what everyone else has, but that's why our culture is so important. It's going to be culture first. We win with people, and then yes, there is going to be a financial piece to our department moving forward, and we've been very vocal about that. I feel very confident in Leon and our staff and the work that they do, and their connection, and the culture that he's built. And so I'm not as concerned about it. I firmly believe, BJ, everything happens for a reason. And, we've had, a handful of kids, but we really haven't been overly hit by the portal in the last few years. We've had a handful of kids who left that maybe we didn't want to leave, or it was their decision and we did everything we could to keep them, whatever that was. Great kids and kids, that I still follow, like Buzo and, Talon and, those guys, once a Bronco, always a Bronco. And so I'm very grateful for them. When I think about, our basketball program, I'm not sure there's been a time in our history where, for 4 years, we didn't make it to the NCAA tournament, we made it to the Crown. And I know you're going to ask some questions around that. There is some value in terms of our, how relevant we are, going 3 years in a row and then being mentioned as the last four out and having your logo up there and having those expectations, that is something that we pride ourselves on. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like, I'm not trying to say, oh yeah, I feel good about it, nor does Leon. Like, we're all bummed, Tyson, like our whole team is bummed, they know how good they are and should have, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but this is just the reality of our business. And everyone's out there to win, and maybe we just didn't do it enough. And that's okay. Like, you learn a lot through these processes. You learn what you need and what we need to go out and get, where we need to invest. We need to get, more investment into extra mile and what athletics role in that is. We need to monetize our operations differently. We need to continue to hit the portal, which Leon and them do a good job. We need to hold on to the guys, that we want to hold on to. And the plan, doesn't necessarily change. It's just our level of effort and energy around it and our level of investment. We need to get more. We don't need what everyone else has. We just need more than we got. And this is the reality of our industry. And that's my call to action for Bronco Nation. It's why the collective was so important. And now revenue share is going to be important, and Bronco Pro is important. And we have to go out and get more. I have my football coach out there, along with our Built Different, committee, out there calling every business in Idaho. Every dollar matters. And this is a time to unite. We're looking at the next 3 to 5 years of our industry and the changes that potentially are coming. We've heard about super conferences and still conference realignment. And part of the decision why we made the decision in terms of the Pac-12, because we're trying to better position ourselves and sometimes, you gotta, fake it till you make it. Sometimes, it's the story that's being told, but I also believe in the work that's being done. And I have an amazing team, and we're all in. Everyone's in the foxhole. We're locked arms, and we're going to go out and our goal is still epic. And I believe in this place. That's why I'm still here, BJ. And I believe in what we're building, and I know there's more ahead of us.
Our athletic director at Boise State, Jeramiah Dicki, is our guest here on Bronco Nation News. Jeramiah, I should have done this first and not waited 4 questions in, but the NACDA Athletic Director of the Year, also a finalist for the Sports Business Journal's Athletic Director of the Year as well, and some other awards out there. So congratulations to that. I know a lot of fans were like scared to see that because more schools are going to find out what everybody else already knows about how great you are. But just that had to be pretty cool to, in a 24-hour span, win a big one as the Athletic Director of the Year and then be a finalist for another one.
Yeah, it's surreal. Honestly, I'm not, everything everyone knows, I talk a lot, and I'm speechless, man. I say it and I understand, my role as the leader of this department, but I have a phenomenal team, and, I'm not in this position without them. And I've said it before, I'm not an outlier. I got so many calls and people reaching out, and I'm just so grateful for the people that have helped me along the way and believed in me, maybe when I didn't believe in myself. And, there's always this inherent fear when, or I don't say always, with me, there was an inherent fear when I got this job. Could I do it? And I remember asking, some of my mentors, could I do it? And did they believe I could? And it was unanimously, yes, you can do it. And, and then to get 4 years in and to be recognized, that's more of a testament to the people around me and the people who poured into me over the course of my career. It's a point of pride. I know, just like, I want to represent my family name to the best of my ability. I want to represent people like Mac and Hunter and others that have been in my circle and Foxhole with me. And hopefully that's a point of pride for them. They put a lot of time, effort, and energy into me. And, I know both Mac and Hunter have gotten that award, and to be a part of that tree, and it takes a team. And so, all glory to God. I'm my job is to show up and to give 100%. And there's few things I can control other than my attitude and my effort. And, when you get recognized like that, I hope people like Cody and Nate and Heather and CVT and everyone that reports up through them, Allie, who's right outside my office and is instrumental in terms of the work we do. There's so many people to thank, my coaches, Spencer and Leon and Gordy and so on and so forth. I hope they feel some pride and appreciation in that as well, because I'm not getting recognized if they're not doing the work and they're not taking, my leadership and putting it into action. And so I'm really grateful.
Well, congratulations again. And yeah, that should have been the first question, not the fourth. But
no, that's okay.
All right, back to the crown here. Tell us about the crown. And I know some mixed reactions amongst fans for that when you see the records of some of these teams that are in the tournament and stuff. But just when you look at it and the NIL component and getting a chance to go to, there's just a lot to this with the 2-week break and whether that's good or bad before it starts. But the timing is kind of nice in terms of most of these other teams are done by then. The NIL component, managing the transfer portal at the same time. But again, getting to be on FS1 and a Fox, if you make the Final Four here, I'm never going to turn down a trip to Circa in Vegas. So, I mean, I was happy to hear about it, but what do you just think big picture for the program and how this all kind of come about? I know this was something you guys were analyzing and looking at for several weeks.
Yeah. Well, one on Circa, that's still by far is my favorite hotel in Vegas. And I know you're very close to them, and I know we've been developing a relationship with them. And so I agree. I when you think about postseason and the opportunity, and even the 2-week period, like you look at bowl games, sometimes you're waiting a month, and so I'm not as concerned about that. Obviously I don't make decisions in a silo. That's something that Leon and I had talked about, and Burns and Cody, and we always want to do what's best. And it gives us an opportunity to play, on Fox, which is important to us. They've been a great partner with us, in terms of football. And so really excited about that, and excited for our guys to, you don't want your season to end on a loss, and there's something to play for, and we're competitors, and we're in this to win. Right. And, as is GW and everyone else who's going to be in the crown. And so the first year that it's being done, it was maybe a little uncomfortable, like, balancing the NIT versus what the crown was, but it made it pretty easy at the end. I think the tournament it's a cool concept. It's a great setup. And it gives, the kids something to play for. And, and I think, in this day and age, that goes a long way. And maybe it helps us keep some of these guys. I know they respect and appreciate each other. We have a strong culture. I can't guarantee that we're going to have 100% of our team, because so much can happen in this day and age with agents and transfer portals, et cetera. But, we're really excited about the opportunity to compete and represent this great community in Bronco Nation. And we believe in who we are, and, but so does everyone else in this tournament. And so I also think it's really cool, the timing of it, from, the Elite Eight, Sweet 16, Elite Eight to the Final Four national championship. And it's kind of in that block where, I think people, coming off of the next 2 weeks, starting today of games, Thursday through Sunday, I think, that's going to draw fans in. And, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot to learn. This is the first year of them doing it, but I can't say enough of how they've been communicating and the connection. And, I've been talking to them for a while now, and obviously we know them. well. And so just really grateful for the opportunity and excited to get to Vegas and compete.
Yeah, I think the first years there's always some unknowns, but I think this thing could either make the NIT have to change things or put them out of business or whatever. I mean, I think this has potential to just really grow here moving forward. So I think it's great. You guys did release yesterday the spring game update and some things going on there in terms of the tailgating and some of the competitions you guys are going to do. But what do you just having the spring game? I mean, you guys are doing the construction and all this. You could have just said, heck with it, no spring game this year. I know it's not going to be a traditional spring game. It'll be similar, but maybe more controlled and more of like a combination between a practice and a spring game type thing. But just to have something for the fans and have it be open, how important was that to you in the department?
Yeah, it was a conversation Spencer and I had, and some of our other teammates as well on our football external pod. And ultimately our goal is to always do what we feel is in the best interest of our program. And in talking to Spencer, like most things, BJ, and I can't thank him enough. The level of grace and understanding and just how he approaches things. We had a conversation and there's reasons, good reasons to play. There's reasons not to play. And we've seen a couple of teams nationally, and I don't know how many now at this point, but 4 or 5 maybe, that said it's not worth it in portal. The reality is we just went to the CFP. Everyone knows who our players are. They know who our guys are. And, yes, are they going to be watching? And is there the possibility that, teams are going to send someone? Yeah, but you know how those spring games work. And I also see a positive in, it is a different look, when you're playing and now all of a sudden the north end zone it doesn't exist. You're going to have, structure going up here soon, which we're really excited about. I think just to get our guys in front of some people and, they've been grinding and practicing and working really hard. And for them to be able to play in front of, Bronco Nation and us to be able to provide that experience, it takes the team. And Spencer said it, like we want them to feel a part of it and the autographs and so on and so forth. That's a good opportunity for us. And, and we're going to take advantage of it. And, I think in the future you'll see, maybe us try different things. And, I know we've thrown out ideas of concerts, et cetera. And, and we're still in a way navigating weather maybe a little bit, but, I see a lot of value in it. And, we need to monetize our operations. We need to take advantage of every opportunity. And that includes creating community type events like this, that even if it's free, that we utilize those pipelines to push season tickets and whatnot. I mean, we're well ahead of where we were last year in terms of renewals. And I think we've sold 400 new season tickets, and that's including, because of the north end zone, being torn down. And so I'm really excited. It's 6 games, 6 sellouts, and I never talk about the championship game. It's 1-0. And so I know everyone always says 7 games, but it's 6 games, 6 sellouts, and we have control in that. And we need Bronco Nation to step up, and hopefully they appreciate our willingness to do something, that in many ways is more for them than us. When you get to the spring game, you're not going to always see a lot of the starters. It's not a traditional setup. What I will say, and I appreciate Dion bringing it up, or Coach Prime, I love the idea, just like the NFL, of bringing teams in, and what opportunities does that present to us in the future, that you can practice against someone else or even play against someone else, even if it is to get your backups and third string guys, some playing time. And, we're a developmental program. And so those snaps matter. And I'm excited about the possibilities moving forward in that space as well.
Yeah, maybe that could be the FCS game every year. You just pay your FCS team their money, let them come in, and maybe that's when you play your Idaho or your Idaho State every year, and just do it in the spring, and it doesn't count, and then it's fun for everybody. I could see that being something that would. There's
a lot of value. I mean, you look at Idaho and Idaho State, and I believe the vast majority of their alums are in our, in the Treasure Valley and in our community. And I've said it before. I understand there's feelings, but. There is potential in the future, if we're going to continue, and right now we are, but that could change. I may have to pivot, but, if we're going to continue to play in FCS, but, is that an opportunity in the spring? And I think it would be a value to them too. I care very much about this state and what we represent. And yes, I believe, being the only FBS in the state, maybe we're set up a little bit different, but that's not to downplay who they are and the quality of football and the experience that's working together we could provide our fan bases. So we'll have more conversation. There's always opportunity. I see opportunity in everything.
I got a couple of questions from fans in the chat I want to get to before we let you go. But one more, you mentioned the construction update. What is the kind of update on the construction? We see the crane and there's something else that looks like going up every day. But where are we in terms of the schedule for that? And what you mentioned being pretty close to actually seeing a building start to take shape here.
Yeah, I as far as I know, and we get daily updates. We're on schedule, so that we're really proud of Nate and our team, and Jordan and Chris and anyone else who's been participating with that from our side. Cody, I'm really proud of the work that they're doing and working with campus. I would expect over the next 6 weeks to 2 months that you're going to start seeing that structure go up. We're still, right now we've been fortunate. We haven't necessarily had to navigate weather. But I would assume that they're starting to put down the foundation, and you're going to see as we head into the summer actual structure. And every day I go out there to look at it, and it makes me really proud. We haven't done a facility like that in a very long time, and it's going to be impactful for us, especially as we go into this new era of college athletics. And it still weighs very heavily on me for Bronco Nation in terms of the North End Zone fans. I probably see them and talk to them more than any other section in the stadium because of, when I go down to see the team and that weighs on me, but there are going to be spots within the stadium, and they very much have a place and they're a part of this program. And I hope they embrace that. And, the South End Zone is going to be insane, including the band, and that becomes a competitive advantage for us. So I'm really excited to see the progress that's being made, and I'll definitely keep you all posted if we end up hitting a snag at any point. But right now we're full speed ahead.
As you can imagine, a lot of questions on here about the Pac-12 and what's going on there. We haven't heard a lot lately. Surf City Bill says Canzano expects a media deal announcement by April. Is he correct, Mr. Dickey? And Blue Turf says we need some answers about the Pac-12. The way things are going, it doesn't look promising. Is there a chance we go back to the Mountain West? Both sides of the spectrum there on those two questions. Yeah. What I know you can't say a lot, but what can you say in terms of any, whether it be the adding another team or the media rights deal or anything going on behind the scenes with the Pac?
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, understanding what a fan's timeline is versus what ours is, maybe are two different things. I'm not concerned, BJ, plan the work the plan, and there's strategy. There's a lot of discussions and meetings and conversations being had, and it's going to take time, and we knew that going into it. And so, I'm not at a place of concern at all. And so Blue Turf or whoever asked that question, we're right where we're supposed to be. Everything happens for a reason. And, this was the level of risk reward that we were willing to take. That, you look at the basketball league of what it would have been this year and potentially what it will be in the future. And you look at football, and, our goal is competitive excellence, and to continue to, even if it's moving an inch forward, that's progress. And, I want us to continue to elevate. I want us to continue to invest. And, we're not like a lot of other schools. And I think everyone in the Pac can say that right now. We're much closer, to the Power Four and much further away from maybe everyone else. And, that's a testament to the 30 plus years of our brand and building towards something special. And, doing what we did this year with CFP and being relevant in basketball, and understand we didn't get in, but, there is a different level of expectation now here, and it's across 18 sport programs. And, and that's something that's important to us. And I still believe in what we're building, and, we're a startup. When you look at it, this really hasn't been, it's probably been done in the past, but, I can't really call out, maybe the American, was the last one, where you're not really going into a conference. Like, yes, we have the name of that conference, but you're essentially creating a lot from scratch. And, and that's the cool part for me as as having a seat at that table and being a startup and having those conversations with my colleagues and trying to build something out that makes sense for us, that we can monetize and best position ourselves. I'm enjoying that process. Is it, uncomfortable or comfortable, not necessarily, like, but I think the growth and progress occurs in the uncomfortable, and that's what I'm really embracing, and that's what our team's embracing, and I think everyone's locked in regards to those team members, the other schools that are represented, that we have a lot more work ahead of us, and maybe there's more questions than answers at this point, but that's not unexpected. So I'm not worried, and I'm really excited about the recent conversations. I can't speak to, Canzano, and I think very highly of him, but I can't speak to timelines. I just know, there's going to be something sooner than later, and we know that. We know we need to add another team at minimum, and we know we need to launch, or announce a media rights partner, and there's still some big things out there, and it's like this board that we're working off of, and every day you check a box, and we're going to continue to do that and put our best foot forward, and I'm excited about what the future holds.
All right, final thing or two quickly here. I know you're almost out of time. I'm not trying to ask you to get specific, but just in general, Bronco 130 is asking, do you get to provide input on the hiring of a new university president? Who knows what's going to happen out there where the reports are public, but I guess if there were to be a search or something, does the AD of a school get involved in that at all?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll have an official seat, but I can assure you and Bronco Nation and everyone else, I'm not going to hold back. We are at the crossroads of what we want this place to be, as we look to the future, and it's imperative, that athletics is supported differently than what we've been supported. And, the idea of rolling our sleeves up, and yes, we're blue collar, and that's always going to be who I am. And so, I can assure everyone, like, yeah, we're going to fight the good fight. And, but, we are at a different place in time. And, we've worked really hard across all sport programs, to monetize our operations. And, this next president is going to be key for the future of not just our institution, but this athletic department. And so they may not want to hear my opinion, they may not care about my opinion, but I am going to be vocal in terms of what's best for this department, because I'm bullish, BJ, that I believe we're not just the front porch. We're the mailbox, we're the facade, we're the yard, we are everything. And when you look at the value of that logo and what that means, and the value of the blue, I'm not going to be the AD that loses it. And, and that means we have to do more. We have to make decisions and maybe quicker decisions, and it's ready, aim, fire. And we got to go out on that limb. And, the next 3 to 5 years is absolutely key for our institution as it pertains to athletics. And I've told that story. I've been very honest and transparent. And I'm really grateful. Like, I have a great relationship with our state board. I think very highly of them, and the work that they do. And I have great relationships with people on campus in the campus leadership. And so I'm excited, I'm happy for Dr. Trump but in typical fashion, it's what's next. Everything happens for a reason, and I see opportunity in everything. And I'm really excited about what the future looks like.
Blake says you should throw your name in the president's.
I'm not sure, I don't, that's a hard job. And, I think the academic people on campus would not appreciate an athletic director, but, but it takes a team, and, I want someone that we can lock arms with, and being a part of the process is just as important as being a part of the outcome. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. And I think we can do some really amazing things and epic things that there's a win-win for all. And, and that's going to be top of mind as we move forward. And I've spent a lot of time this week, and, I believe in who we are and what we're building, and it's going to take a team, and this next hire is going to be important.
Well, final thing for you, JD. Pro Day next week. Ashton Genty back on campus wearing the blue and orange again. I don't know if you've heard of any, big time folks that are coming, but I would imagine this will be one of the bigger anticipated, attended pro days in a long time. Just how excited are you for next week? And again, a showcase for Boise State and that brand that's going to be all over the national stage next Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for those guys. I mean, they've worked hard. I mean, you think about it, they were already 1%ers, being able to play Division I football, and now to be 1% of the 1%. That's a testament to them, the men they are, and the work they've put in. And so I'm really excited to see them compete. I think very highly of them. We have a handful of guys that I think have a legitimate shot, obviously to get drafted, but to be on a roster next year and to continue our great tradition and to be able to see those guys back in town. A lot of those guys bounce to wherever their trainers are and they're working out in different places. And, especially a guy like Ashton that, is obviously high on everyone's list and would expect him to be picked, in the first round, if not the top 10, and I think I truly believe he's the best player in college football, and whoever's going to get him is going to be, really excited, I think, and just what he represents and how he holds himself and handles everything that comes at him. And so I'm really excited to give him a hug. And, I love those guys, BJ. That was the hardest thing for me, at the end of any season when our seniors, are done or not senior, I guess Ashton was a junior, but when they're done with their time here. And, we work very hard to prepare them for life and they know, I think it's important, they always have a home here. I will always have their back and I'm always a phone call away. I love them to death and I think so highly of them, and I'm really excited to see him compete. And I would assume every scout and a lot of GMs and, will be here, to see these guys, perform and I'm praying for them and I'm excited to see it next week.
Oh, I think head coach, Pete Carroll, the Raiders, Kellen Moore back on the Bentown could be with the same. I mean, it's going to be an absolute chaos. So looking forward to it. And I got my plane flight booked. As of now, BNN's planning to go to Green Bay to cover the draft and cover Ashton. I mean, you talk about telling the story and stuff. That's an important moment in the history of Boise State athletics. So I'm planning I went down for Leighton Vander Esch with the Cowboys when he was a first-round pick. So going to try to make it work to get up there to never been to Lambeau Field before. So that's going to be kind of cool too for the draft. I mean, he has a chance. I think Ryan Clady, is the highest ever picked player at Boise State. And I think if Ashton can go, top 10, he'd be the highest ever. So that would be really exciting, really cool. And looking forward to next week. But Jeremiah, appreciate your time as always. Really appreciate you giving up, 30 minutes once a month here for us here on BNN. Appreciate it. And looking forward to doing it again next month.
BJ, well, two things. One, thank you. And thank you for the coverage during the tournament. And I said it publicly, but it means a lot. I know you have a family and Jay and everyone else who attends. And I feel like we always have a lot more support from our local media than most schools. And I'm really grateful for that. And two, I was at Leighton's draft. That was the only draft I've been to. I believe that was in Dallas.
Yeah.
And so I was in Waco at that time. And so, that was a really cool experience. So I may need to join you in Green Bay. I hadn't really thought about it, but, just to be there to support Ash would be, awesome.
That was when he got picked by the Cowboys, he just got to stay for the next day, and he was doing his, I guess every year they have their pick come in Jerry Jones helicopter and then land, in this big thing, media circus for all the media, but he was already in Dallas. So they literally drove him to the airport so he could get in the helicopter and come back to make it a big show, dog and pony show for Jerry Jones. But it was pretty cool. And I don't know how it'll go up there, and hopefully can talk with Ashton's agent at Pro Day next week and get some stuff worked out. But it's a cool moment for you guys and for him and for this program. So looking forward to it next month. But thanks again, JD. Thanks to Chris.
Go Broncos.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
There he is, Jeremiah Dicki. Appreciate him, as always, for jumping on once a month here on BNN. Appreciate Chris for helping set that up with Boise State as well. And, great stuff. Not a lot of ADs out there. They're going to give up 35 minutes of their time just to talk and answer your questions and things. We couldn't get to all the questions, so apologize for that. I'm not going to ask baseball questions, and some of the questions you guys had in the chat are just redundant at this point. Why isn't Leon Rice fired? Why don't they have a baseball team? I mean, sorry, you're not going to get an answer, so it's not worth wasting our time at this point, to be honest. So appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Games have started. I think there's a score already in some of the games. So games have started. Go enjoy the madness. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back with Jay Tuss 9 a.m. tomorrow. And if you missed any of the show, you can go back and watch all of our shows on our YouTube channel at Bronco Nation News. It's youtube.com/Bronco Nation News. And thanks a lot. Really appreciate all you guys for checking us out and watching the show. And we'll talk to you later and see you tomorrow morning. Bronco Nation News, BroncoNationNews.com.
Bronco Nation News is presented by our title sponsor, RovePaint.com. Our major sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, Lithia Ford, The Blue and Orange Store, Jackson's, and our contributing sponsors, Signature Roofing, Western Collective, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Boucher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and Timberstone Golf Course.